So activities are loosely tied together to make an app. We can Why these activities are loosely tied, this means that one activity does not totally depends on another activity. That's why we call it a loose activity, loosely tied together. And those activities are called loosely tied activities, because one activity does not depend completely on another activity. That's why we call them loosely tied. So first activity user sees is typically called the main activity. This is the by default notion. This is the main function of the mobile application app. Activities can be organized in parent-child relationships in the Android manifest to aid navigation. So we can also organize activities as a parent-child relationships. So this will help to aid navigation. Okay, and you all know about Android manifest file. This is a special file in Android application that contains all the information relevant to that app. So we can organize activities in a form of parent-child relationships to aid in navigation. So what is the relationship between an activity and the layout? An activity typically uses a user interface layout. There is a mechanism with the help of different activities are interacting with each other, and that is with the UI layout. So layout is usually defined in one or more XML files. You have also seen this thing multiple times when you are making small apps, small exercises in your Android Studio. That layout, we define layout in one or more XML files. So activities playing a very major role when we are trying to link those activities with the layout. So how we implement activities in the code? So let's move on and see. For that, there are some steps. First one is define layout in XML. First we define layout in XML, and then we will create an activity class which is called Java class, and that Java class extends from this app compat activity class. So this is an inheritance relationship between two classes. This is a subclass of activity class, and we will build our own class which is called user defined class, and that user defined class will extend from this activity. So connect activity with layout. This is a major phase. How we connect activity with the layout? The answer is on create event. Okay, this is by default event that is generated by the Android application runtime. So we connect activity with the layout on this event and declare activity in the Android manifest file. This is already explained before, so no need to discuss it again. So this is the XML file. As you can see that defining layout in XML, this is the first step of this. How we define layout in XML? This is the first step. This is the XML version. This is encoding, and then this relative layout, and this is the by default settings for your Android applications. Layout width match parent, because we are not creating layout by our own. We are taking what it is present in the parent, so that's why we are using these things. And this is a text view control. Wrap content, width and height is wrap content, and then text it's let's shop for the food. So this is the relative layout. This is the first step of activity creation. Okay, first we defined a layout in XML file, and then we will create an activity. So this is the second phase, which is called define activity Java class. This is the user defined class, and it is extending from this. This is a relationship single level inheritance. We are inheriting a single class. This is a user defined class, and this is already present and pre-built class, parent class. So we are extending our user defined class from this class, and we are overriding its method which is on create. So this method is also present over here, and we are overriding that method in our class. So we are giving some bundle information. Bundle is for different data key value pairs, and then we are calling here super class method. Okay, this is super class method, super on create. This is a constructor. We are calling super class constructor by this method. So let's move on and see how we connect activity with the layout. In the same class, after the previous line, this line we will write another line which is called set content view. This is the resource file. r.layout is the layout file, and this is the main activity file. So in this fashion we connect activity with the layout. So declare activity is the fourth step of creating activity in Android declare activity in the Android manifest file. So in activity Android name, this is the key, and this is the value. This is the key, and this is the value. Okay, this is the by default notion how we write key value pairs in Android. So let's move on. Declare main activity in the manifest file. Main activity needs to include intent filter to start from launcher. So how we launch the main activity? The answer is with the help of this intent filter to start from the launcher. So we encapsulate or embed this code in the activity main activity in manifest file, where we are specifying the actions and the category. The category is launcher. As you can see, these are the predefined constants, and this is the main activity class. So what are intents? An intent is a description of an operation to be performed. This is the most basic definition of an intent. The operation we want to perform in an activity is called a intent. So an intent is an object used to request an action from another app component via the Android system. So intent is an object that requests actions from another components with the help of Android system. So as you can see in the image, this is the originator of the request who requests some data or some operation, but that request does not move directly to this component. Instead of this request is gone to Android system, and then this system delegates this request to this app component. Okay, so the request of some action does not goes to different components directly, but there is a way. First, that request will go to a middle layer which is called Android system, and then it is the responsibility of the system to send the request to this component. So this is a middleman or middle layer that acts as an agent between these two components. So how we start an activity? What can intents do? Start an activity. A button click starts a new activity for text entry. Okay, clicking share options an app that allows you to post a photo. This is an example how activities are started. This is start a service. Let's say some downloading is going on behind the scenes, so initiate downloading a file in the background. And the third one is broadcast. Broadcast, as its name suggests, it is a self-explanatory. The system informs everybody that the phone is not charging. Some notifications that are coming from the system to the user, those are called broadcast. So there are three different ways with the help of intents can interact with the system. So there are two types of intents. One is called the explicit intent, and the second one is called the implicit intent. So explicit intent starts a specific activity. Let's suppose request tea with milk delivered by Nikita, and main activity starts a view shopping cart activity. So why we call it explicit? Because we need to mention explicitly the actual activity name that needs to come after that activity. So this is the main activity, and the main activity is calling this activity. That's why we called it the explicit intent. The second one is called the implicit intent. In this fashion, it is the responsibility of the system to find an activity and handle this request. Let's suppose we are going to find a store that sells green tea. Clicking share options, clicking share opens a chooser with a list of apps. Like in Windows, when you want to open some file, then a new dialog opens, and there are different apps visible in that dialog. So this is the same case. It is the responsibility of the system to find an activity. So how we start activities? To start a specific activity, use an explicit intent. Let's say first we create intent object, and then we pass this pointer and the activity name, that needs to be started with the help of this intent, and then use the intent to start the activity. This is the method of intent, which is called start activity, and we are passing this object over here, intent. So in this fashion, we will start an activity with an explicit intent. So how we start an activity with the implicit intent? To ask Android to find an activity to handle the request, use the implicit intent. As I said before, it is the responsibility of the system, Android system, to find an activity that needs to handle the request. So same but different arguments, action that needs to be performed, and the URI of the object that needs to be performed during this action. And same method, start activity, and we are passing the same object over here, intent. So let's say what are implicit intents examples. Here is a URI dot parse. This is the URI that needs to be parsed in intent, and we are passing this URI in this intent, like this intent action view URI. These are predefined constants in intents. This means that we are going to view some URL, and that URL is viewed by this action view method or property. So start activity, same intent, come over here again, dial a phone number, and here is a constant different action dial. So there are different actions or predefined constants that are associated with an intent. So again, start activity and the intent object over here. So how activities run? All activities instances are managed by the Android runtime. This is the key point that needs to be remembered, that all activity instances are managed by the Android runtime. Start by an intent, a message to the Android runtime to run an activity. So here you can see Android system 1, 2 and 3. So user clicks launcher icon, this request will go to this Android system, then it will call main activity, what do you want to do, and then this activity sends another request, choose food activity, choose food items next, and then as you can see the messages are passed from one activity to another activity with the help of this Android system. So do not forget and remember these points, that the requests are always gone through Android system and not direct communication. Okay, there is no direct communication between these two activities. The communication will always be possible with the help of this Android run system. So sending and receiving data in activities between different activities. So there are methods. First of all, we should know what types of data we can send with intents. The first one is data. One piece of information, whose data location can be represented by URL. So the data which has a location, we can send those data. And the second way is extras. The information is represented in the form of key value pairs, and that key value pairs are stored in a bundle. So we can send data in two different ways. One is the data with a specific URL, and the second one is in the key value pairs in a bundle. Okay, it has a location, it is not a location, but it is in the bundle, in the package form. So sending and retrieving data with the help of intents. These are some steps, like in the first sending activity, create the intent object. First we will create intent object, then put data or extras into that intent, data type number 1 and data type 2, extras and data, and then start new activity with this method. Similarly, in the second activity, we get the intent object the activity was started with, and retrieve the data or extras from the intent object. So we are passing data with intents. Okay, and data is of two types. The first is pure, it's simple data, and the second one is extras. Simple data has a URL, but the extras have no URL. They are packaged in the form of a bundle. So this is an example, putting a URL as intent data. So let's see, this is intent object, set data method property, and we are presenting some URL. And we can also set data with uniform rule from local system with the help of this method, from file, new file, and then we are giving this path over here. So put information into the intent extras. Put extra as a method, string name and integer value. Intent.put extra level, this is the string name level, and this is the value 406. And put extra string name, string is the array. As you can see, we can send a single value and array of values. This is string name. So let's say string food list, rice, beans, food, and put extras. Food is the string name. Food is the string name, and this is the array. So put extras bundle. If lots of data, first create a bundle and pass the bundle. You can also see its documentation how can we do that with the help of the bundle. and then sending data to an activity with extras. This is the put extra. We have already put extra, and now we are going to send data to an activity with extras. So first we'll create extra message key to encrypt the data, and then intent object. This second activity class, this is the main activity, and this is the second activity. Main activity is passing some data in this fashion. Okay, string message hello activity, and then we are going to put intent with put extras extra message key for encryption purposes, and then we have message. Here is the message, and then we start activity intent. So this intent will call the activity which is called second activity. Okay, intent is this, it will send data, this data to this activity. So how we get data, the previous phase for sending data, and how we get data from the intents. So let's see this process as well. First of all, we need to construct the URL. Intent on get data from the specific URL, and then we are creating an extra method with string name and default value integer level with this level 0. Okay, and then bundle is equal to intent on get extras and get all the data at once as a bundle. So these are different methods. This is the second method, and this is the first method. Okay, so you can also go their documentation and see how these mechanisms work of getting data and returning data to the starting activity. So let's suppose we have this function for result to start the second activity. To return data from the second activity, first of all we will create a new intent, and then we will put some response data in the intent using put extras method, and then set the result activity dot result underscore OK. This means that we are going to receive the data, return the data successfully, or result cancelled if the user cancelled out, or call finish to close the activity. So these are all predefined steps that needs to be done before returning data to the starting activity. So implement on activity result in first activity class. We need to implement this function in our first activity class. So start activity for result, it takes an object of intent and the request code. Start activity intent assigns it identifier request code, this one, and returns data via intent extras. It will always return data via intent extras. As you can see, we are using popping stack method, because stack is a data structure that is used behind the scenes in activities. So when done, pop stack return to previous activity and execute on activity result, call back to process return data. This is the way with the help of which we can return data to the calling activity. Use request code to identify which activity has returned, either OK or cancelled, etc., etc. So start activity for result example, let's see, we have a function, we have a constant public static final integer, choose food request is equal to 1, intent object this pointer, and choose food item dot activity class. This is the second activity, and we are going to start return start activity for result intent and choose food request, which is defined over here. Okay, so return data and finish second activity. How this is done, first we need to create an intent in this fashion, and then put data to return into the extras, like reply intent dot put extra extra reply, and this object reply, and then we will set the result OK, because we have returned the data successfully to the calling activity, and then the reply intent, this one, as a second argument, and then finish the current activity. So in this fashion, some data is returned to the calling activity. So how to implement this on activity result method? It takes 3 arguments: request code, either OK or cancelled; result code, completed or not completed; and then intent data. So this is the way with the help of which we call superclass constructor and giving them some arguments of these objects. And then if request code is equal to text request, if it is true, then we will go to check result code. This is the request code and this is the result code. If result code is equal to OK, this means the activity is succeeded, and we are going to reply with some reply mechanisms. So we need to add some messages over here and get the reply done. Same method of acknowledgement. So there is another mechanism which is called navigation. So what is navigation in an Android app? So when a new activity is started, the previous activity is stopped and pushed on the activity back stack. So activities are starting, and in different life phases, it has different life phases and life statuses. So when a new activity is started, the previous activity is stopped, live state, and pushed on the activity back stack, so that later on we can get that activity. Last in first out stack, when the current activity ends or the user presses the back button, it is popped from the stack and the previous activity resumes. So this is the way by the which with the help of which we can start and stop and pause activities and pushing them on the stack and popping them on the stack. We are using a stack to control their life phases, activity life phases. So let's suppose this is an activity stack. This is an example of activity stack. After viewing shopping cart, user decides to add more items and then places order. So this is the first phase, which is called main activity. What do you want to do? The user want to choose some food items. This is second activity, and the third activity is cart activity, view shopping cart. This is third activity. Okay, so we start our journey from this activity. This activity is calling this activity choose items, choose food items, and then view shopping cart, and then food list activity, choose food items, in this fashion. In this, when it comes over here, this activity will be popped from the stack and pushed onto the stack, so that we can get it later on. And after that, we are over here, view shopping cart, add some items in the cart, and then we again come back to the main activity. So as we are moving forward, we are pushing the previous activities onto the stack, as you can see these cross symbols. So two forms of navigation. One is via the temporal or back navigation. This is by default, but not recommended, provided by the device back button, but that is why we call it by default, and controlled by the Android system back stack. There are two stack, back stack, and there is also another stack that is for the forward purpose. Okay, so the second method is ancestor or up navigation stack, provided by the up button in apps action button, like this fashion. Up, we are seeing these arrows, and these are user defined. Okay, this is system by default, and this is user defined. So we can control navigation by making a relationship between them in the form of parent-child relationships in the Android manifest file. So this is the most recommended way. We have a better control on navigation. So navigation back stack preserves history of recently viewed screens by default, and back stack contains all the activity instances that have been launched by the user in the reverse order for the current task, first in first out, last in last out manner, and each task has its own back stack. So this is the main point that needs to be remembered. And switching between tasks activates that task back stack. So this is how we control navigation by using the systems by default functionality in Android system. So what is an app navigation? Goes to parent of current activity, defines an activity parent in Android manifest file, a better way, a most recommended way, and set parent activity name in this fashion in Android manifest file, so that we can control where the current user is. So this is all about activities and intents. So if you have any questions regarding today's lecture, you can email me to my official email, and try to learn more from these links, like Android application fundamentals, starting another activity. It has API guides and API references, how many activities are there, and intents and intent filters are there. We will see this topic, intent filters, later on. And then what is an intent, API reference, and then navigation. We have studied navigation in today's lecture. So try to move on and see more literature or more documentation on these things, so that your concepts will get better. So till then, for your next lecture, Allah Hafiz, see you soon inshallah. Dear students, let's talk about activity life cycle and states, as we have discussed in previous lecture about activities and intents. So when we are creating activities, so activity has a different life cycle and it has different states in that life cycle. So let's move on and discuss those states first. So activity life cycle callbacks, and then we will see activity instant state, and then saving and restoring activity state. How can we do this in our application? We will also see this with the help of the code. So let's discuss the activity life cycle. So what is the activity life cycle? The set of states an activity can be in during its lifetime is called the activity life cycle. So more formally, a directed graph of all the states an activity can be in. So we call this deterministic finite automata because the activity life cycle has deterministic states, infinite number of states. So we call this a directed graph. An activity can be in, and the callbacks. What are the callbacks? Callbacks are basically events that are fired on specific intervals when the user interact with the system, and then we transitioning from each state to the next one. So there are always some events with the help of which an activity will move from one state to another state. So the transition is possible via these callbacks. And what are callbacks? Callbacks are basically called events. So let's illustrate the previous concept with the help of the diagram. So this is activity number 1, and this is activity number 2, and this is activity number 3. As you can see, this is a back stack. Okay, we will save activity states on back stack, and this is activity number 1. It will call activity 2. It is in start state. Okay, this is the start state, activity 2. Then activity 1 is stopped because we are currently in activity 2, not in activity 1. That's why activity 1 is stopped and put into the back stack. So after that we are going to the activity 1, navigate back. So activity 2 destroyed because we are going backward to the activity 1 via back stack. So in this way activities have different life cycles, and different life cycle states are called by callback functions. So activity states and app visibility. The first one is created. This means it is not visible yet. The second state is started. This means it is visible, activity is visible. The third state is resume. It is still visible. Paused. This means that it is partially invisible, not fully visible. And the fifth state is stopped. Stopped state is hidden, like created, not visible yet, and then destroyed, gone from memory. Okay, so these are different states, and these different states are called life cycles of an activity. So state changes are triggered by the user action, which we call callbacks. Configuration changes such as device rotation or system action, etc. So these states are changed according to some action, and that actions are triggered by some callbacks. So activity life cycle callbacks. So as you can see, these are special functions which are predefined, and we call those functions when we need them. So on create, it takes bundle in the key value pair, static initialization, and this is the on start function. It, as its name suggests, this is start state of the activity, and it becomes visible. At this state it is not visible, but in this state it is visible. On restart, called if activity was stopped, calls on start, and then on resume, and then on pause, start to interact with the user and about to resume previous activity. And then this is also a function called on stop, no longer visible but still exists, and all state info preserved. So in this state the information is preserved and not lost at all. And this is the last state of an app, which is called final call before Android system destroys activity. So there are different functions according to these different states: created, started, resume, pause, stopped, and destroyed. According to these states, we have different callback functions: on create, on start, on restart, on resume, so on.